love to be. As storm cloud at night suddenly gathers, our armies come rushing to thee.
We must in the fight be victorious, when swords are thrust outward to gleam. For us will the victory be glorious, when led by the red, black, and green.
Advance, advance to victory, let Africa be free. Advance, advance to meet the foe. Advance, advance to meet the foe. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. Ethiopia, the tyrant's falling, who smote thee upon thy knees, and thy children are lustily calling from over the distant seas. Jehovah, the Great One, has heard us, has noted our sighs and our tears. With the spirit of love, he has stirred us to be one through the coming years. Advance, advance to victory, let Africa be free. Advance, advance to meet the foe. Advance, advance to meet the foe. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. O Jehovah, thou God of ages, grant unto our sons that flee the wisdom thou gave to thy sages when Israel was sore in need.
Thy voice through the tempest has spoken, Ethiopia shall stretch forth the hand.
By thee shall our fetters be broken, and heaven bless our dear fatherland. Advance, advance to victory, let Africa be free. Advance, advance to meet the foe. Advance, advance to meet the foe. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. With the might of the red, the black, and the green.
So beautiful. The first time I heard that, I just, and that was only a couple of days ago, mind you, but I've been playing it. There's just something about it that it's beautiful. The rendition is amazing, but that's only to be expected from the Marlon Legall voice project for sure. But the words, I'm not sure. There's something very, very special about it. And I thank His Excellency David Comissiong for introducing us to it and for sharing it with everyone and getting the project together. So I say good morning to Ambassador David Comissiong. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That's thoroughly special. And also to Marlon Legall, the founder and the musical director of the Marlon Legall Voice Project, for, that rendition. That's amazing, gentlemen. Thank you. So can I get a little, welcome to the link up, first of all, and can I get a bit of the background, Ambassador, if you can? I think we've lost Marlon there for a little bit. Oh, he's back. But
all right.
Hi.
Yes, thanks, Peter, for having us on the show. Yes, what viewers just heard there is the universal Ethiopian anthem. It is, in all likelihood, the single most important song in the entire history of black music. And it was composed by a Barbadian way back in the year 1919. Arnold Josiah Ford, born in Barbados in 1877, master musician. He was the musical director of Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association. And he wrote this remarkable song in 1920 at the first International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World, 25,000 delegates at Madison Square Garden. The song was, it was decreed that it should be known as the Universal Ethiopian Anthem.
Wow. And
it should be the anthem of the entire black race. So that is the song that we are talking about. I arranged with Marlon Legall to have his Marlon Legall Voice Project record a rendition of the song a couple of months ago, and I did it at the request of Dr. Julius Garvey, the son of Marcus Garvey. He was holding an international concert, and he wanted a rendition of the song. So we obliged, and I would love if this song could be introduced to all the people of Barbados as an important part of their Barbadian heritage.
And it's a perfect timing with our season of emancipation, and there is something about it. And I think, Marlon, when you first, when you were first introduced to it, what were your thoughts?
Yes, for sure. To be honest with you, when I received the call, we jumped on it immediately. Are you picking me up clearly?
Yes, a little fuzzy, but that's the internet. We understand.
But what we liked more about it was actually speaking with the ambassador about it. When we learned about the history and everything we went through as people, I feel like if that in that moment is what it changed the meaning of each rehearsal for us. When we thought about the reasons for why, it was written. Class, we spoke about the inspiration of that song, correct? All right, cool. And so we listened to the inspiration. Oh, I have my class with me behind me.
That's lovely. Good morning, class. Nice to have you with us.
So they learned about the inspiration about it, and that's what made it meaningful, yeah.
Right. We don't hear, I think, enough about our heroes. We save it for, like Independence or Black History Month. But it's even at my age, I'm learning things like, Ambassador, you were saying in your notes that even Charles Duncan O'Neill, the Right Excellent Charles Duncan O'Neill and Israel Lovell, played this music as inspiration at their meetings and so on.
Yeah, this was remember, back in 1920, virtually the whole of the black world was colonized. There were only 3 independent black countries back then, Haiti, Ethiopia, and Liberia. Everybody else was colonized. And so we had no national anthems. So this song became the anthem of black people. So for example, in Barbados, there were some 5 or 6 branches of Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association in Barbados. So this was their anthem. Charles Duncan O'Neill, very much influenced by the excellent Right Excellence Marcus Garvey. So his Democratic League and his Working Men's Association, they started their meetings by singing the Universal Ethiopian Anthem. So this song was sung all over the black world, wherever black people came together on the continent of Africa, in gatherings all across the black diaspora. This was our unofficial national anthem. This was the song that inspired us. And you need to know, Peter, that this great Barbadian composer, Arnold Josiah Ford, he migrated, he led the Back to Africa movement in 1930. So he actually went to Ethiopia in 1930 at the time when Haile Selassie was being crowned Emperor of Ethiopia. And as a tribute to the new emperor, he wrote a second version of the song. So he simply changed some of the words, and he wrote this tribute to Selassie. And that second version of the anthem has been embraced by the Rastafarian faith as their anthem. It was also embraced by the Ethiopian World Federation, which was an international organization established by Emperor Selassie, as their anthem. So the second version of the anthem is sung all over the world at Rastafarian gatherings, and most people would either think it's an Ethiopian song or it's a Jamaican song, and they would never dream that it is a Barbadian song. And I tell the story in this. I published this book last year. It's called The Pan-African Love Story of Arnold and Mignon Ford. And it's the story of the life of the composer, Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford, and his wife, his Barbadian wife, Mignon Ford, who is also a great hero of our people, but we'll tell her story another time.
Yeah, that's a very good book, by the way. We are still to get together so I can chat with you about it on air, but that's an excellent book, and it was a really good read. And strikes one with a measure of pride to know that, you know, our people have been making a mark for centuries. You know, it's just the acknowledgement of it that's a little delayed. So thank you for that story. But Marlon, I know that for you, music transcends reality, because I remember reading a bit about you, and you used music literally to remove you from the present and to take you. Can you share a little bit of that with us, and what you think this particular song will do for us as a people hearing it?
For sure. Yes. As I teach every day at work, I realize that, because I imagine I was a youngster coming up, and you're of a divorced family, and sometimes you might feel like if you're alone, you feel like if it's really the parents and then there's you. So when I'm teaching every day, I really try my best to encourage these young people to find a sport, find music, find stand-up. And you're right, Peter, it is the heart and soul behind exactly what I do. So when I was called to do this song, by the way, this book is amazing, so please make sure
it is. It's a very good book.
Yes. And the thing is, like you were saying, is a sad thing that we don't know, or we don't have access as much as we want to. But on learning about the fact that it was a Bayesian that wrote it, we as a group became fascinated by his wife too, and her educational promise that she's really made the impact that she made. But it is upon learning a lady that was hurt, rape, and the Psalms and the movement, is through learning about those things that reminded me of why I do what I do today too. So Peter, it really resonated with me, and it became more than a song. It became an anthem, which is what it is. An affirmation for us. So to be honest with you, I didn't know it before. I did not. I am big in front. I didn't know at all. So I'm glad I was introduced to it. And thank you so much, Ambassador.
I like, and you can
Peter,
hear it though. You can hear it. Yes. Go ahead, Ambassador.
Yeah, Peter, I just wanted to add a little bit to what Marlon said for the benefit of viewers. What Marlon is referring to, the Rabbi Ford, in explaining the sources of his inspiration to write this song, he said that one source of his inspiration was the news that he received of a very brutal rape and murder of a black African-American teenage girl who was working for this white family, was raped by the male of the household. And when she tried to bring it to the attention of the female of the household, they arranged to have her murdered. And that brought home to him how vulnerable our people are. And the idea came to him that we really need, as a race, to develop a source of strength that would enable us to protect members of the race all over the world. And then the second source of inspiration was Psalm 68. Particularly that verse of the Psalm that says, "Princes shall come out of Egypt, and Ethiopia shall soon stretch forth her hands unto God." And this was a biblical verse that really resonated with our people during those dark days of slavery, because it spoke of a time when Africa and African people would be redeemed. So if you pay close attention to the lyric of the song,
Yes.
you will see that verse is actually referenced in the song. And of course, the third source of inspiration was Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association. Arnold was a very important member of that association. In fact, some people would tell you that he was second only to Marcus Garvey in terms of being the public face of that organization. And that was the organization that way back then was really leading the way in fighting for the redemption of Black and African people.
By the very name, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So it was not a meeting to talk about, oh, woe is me, what is happening. Yes, that was part of it, but also to go even beyond that and to improve ourselves as a people. Can we talk about that when we come back from the break, about the association? And Marlon, perhaps you can, juxtapose it with your reality today. So we'll come back after the break. We are talking with His Excellency David Comissiong, who is Barbados' ambassador to CARICOM, and Marlon Legall, who is a teacher, musical director. I heard Handel's Caribbean Messiah at the museum a couple Christmases ago, and I was just transfixed. What Marlon does with people's voices is incredible. I'm thinking very seriously of going to him and having me work mine, because you get a little lazy and you forget all your teachings, and it'd be good to get a refresher course of Marlon. I'm gonna pay you a visit. But one of the things that, Ambassador, what you said, in terms of the anthem is the Universal Negro Improvement Association. We've heard of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, but I don't think the UNIA is as well known, and that is it's really unfortunate in the fact that we are not aware of the work that they did and the importance of that work and the acceptance of that work, and then unfortunately how it was lost.
Yes, Peter. Well, I'll talk about that, but just let me say this. This recording of the anthem was contributed by us to Dr. Garvey's international concert. They played this anthem twice in that concert. They used this to open the concert and to end the concert. Now, there were acts from all over the world in this concert, and Dr. Garvey contacted me to say that it was this performance that really brought a touch of class to the entire event.
Well done.
I think Barbadians need to understand. Yeah, Marlon and I had this discussion when at the last performance of Handel's Caribbean Messiah at Golden Square. The need for our people to have this quality of artistry, not knocking any of the the popular music that we tend to feature a lot in Barbados, but when you get a Marlon Legall and a Dr. Stefan Walcott.
Yes.
I mean, this is artistry of the highest level. Let me talk a little bit about Marcus Garvey. The UNIA, at its peak, 8 million members, all in countries all over the world. As I said, there were 5 or 6 branches in Barbados alone. Clement Payne, member of the UNIA. Israel Lovell was the president of one of the branches of the UNIA. Marcus Garvey actually came to Barbados in October of 1937. He spoke at the Queen's Park Steel Shed in Barbados. The point is that Marcus Garvey was a monumental figure in the black world from about 1918 right through to the 1930s. And it was his organization, as you said, Peter, Improvement. I mean, his idea was the African continent belongs to black people. We are demanding that we recover Africa, that Africa be made independent. African people all over the world, we are calling them to come together to do self-help, to establish factories, to establish schools. I mean, his idea was, he called it black nationalism. And the idea was that everything that is required to establish a nation, economic enterprises, military enterprises, a diplomatic corps, even though we did not have, quote unquote, our own sovereign nations, we were going to come together as black people and we were going to establish these things, newspapers. I mean, you name it. The Black Star steamship line. So everything that is necessary for a nation, Marcus Garvey led the way, and so it was this organization, this Universal Negro Improvement Association, that kind of showed the way for activists, for political parties and trade unions and leaders of national movements to come after him, to take us to the independent nations that we have today. So very, very important as a vanguard movement, pointing the way to our ultimate securing independence and nationhood and so forth.
What do you think his thoughts would be on where we are now in 2022?
Well, I think he would be disappointed that we haven't gone further, but he would be encouraged by some of the recent developments. Certainly, last year we had the first Africa CARICOM Heads of Government Summit, and we are now talking about establishing a permanent forum for African and Caribbean states. Remember, Marcus Garvey was a great Pan-Africanist. Huh? I mean,
Yes.
his big vision was that we were all African people, that the center of our concern must be that continent of Africa. So when in the anthem you hear Ethiopia, thou land of our fathers, you should really read that as Africa, thou land of our fathers. They were not simply referring to the nation that we now know as Ethiopia. Ethiopia was used as another name for the entire African continent. So Africa was to be the center, but Black people, wherever they existed on the face of the earth, were to be seen as a national group. And it was really Garvey, and that Garvey movement that demanded the civil and human rights of African people. In 1920, at that first International Negro Convention of Negro Peoples of the World, they came together and they developed a charter of civil and human rights for the African people of the world. So yes, he would not be totally satisfied with the progress that we have made. He would have imagined that we would have made more progress in coming together as a global African people and developing our strength in every way. But he would recognize, that we have done some good things and that it is still a work in progress.
Quite. And Marlon, what I like is the treatment that you all gave the word advance, because Mr. Ford really repeated that word throughout the anthem, and so obviously it had some particular meaning, and I love the stresses and the way that that word was handled. How do you approach something like that? You listen to the music and then you look at the words, and what goes through your mind as a musical director, what goes through your mind? How should this be treated?
So I'll take you from the beginning because this is very important, and I'm glad that you asked that question. So I was sent the information via Dr. Stefan Walker, the sheet music, and we were sent an audio of it being done from YouTube. I listened to this music, and immediately we take to YouTube not to learn about the harmonies or the way how it's sung, but we go to YouTube and we go to the internet to learn a bit more about this Africa and this Ethiopia that he's singing about. We learn wars, the way how they were victorious over it, and the wars that they had in the past, and how in present day and right now their economy is actually growing quite well. So there's a certain belief that you begin to develop within the words and the context, the text itself. And then I look at the sheet music that I'm given, and I think, okay, cool. It's an anthem, and if you know anything about anthems, especially Barbadian anthem, you want to be as true as possible to this anthem. I'm not sure yet if it's a bit more flexible for this one, but in my mind, I'm going, let me just make sure it be as true as possible to the musical score. And that was the approach that we took first, with the meaning behind it. And then we're going to the studio, we're actually singing, and we're looking at the word advance. Advance, we don't call and response. And I think in one of the documentaries that we were watching, the gentleman said, listen, he noticed what was important in communal singing, as you know, when you sit together and huddle together, and the women would sing, and then the men would come in, advance, 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 and they call and response. It's like a way of communication, and you know how that goes for us as Black people, and our history for call and response and the drum. So it was a real good experience to actually be a part of that session in the studio too, because guess what? We're sitting and we're thinking we're about to record, and our ambassador sits us down, right? And he tells us this story that brought a tear to our eyes. Because don't forget, we're thinking, okay, we got our history down, we've got our accents on the notes, we've got our pictures, but then he brings this perspective that we could not read about. We brought this perspective that changed it for us. And so, how I integrate it today, I may be going ahead of you, but I'm going to just make sure I say it because my class behind, we were talking about it earlier, right, class? And how did it make you feel when you learned about all these things that happened back then to the young lady and stuff? It was horrible, wasn't it? I think one student said to me, "So does the war in Ukraine right now, sir, all the wars that they had and all this injustice." And
Yes.
so it's an opportunity for me at school here to even share the information that I was given in our studio with everybody. And that's how we apply it to today.
And we're so happy that you did and that you were able to interpret it the way you did. Certainly, it was for me, when I heard it a few days ago, I said, no, we got to talk about this because it's a very powerful piece and the history behind it is just as powerful. Thank you very much, Marlon. And please, thank your class
so
for, giving us the opportunity to steal you for a bit. Thank you so much. And Ambassador, as usual, thank you so much for...
One final word, Peter.
Go ahead.
One final word. It would be remiss of me not to say that the videographer was a young lady by the name of Aisha Comissiong.
Well done.
The official videographer bailed out on us at the last moment. And this young lady stepped forward with her cell phone camera.
What?
And just brilliantly, I guess because she's a dancer and choreographer.
Exactly, she can see a space. Yeah.
She just did it brilliantly.
Tell her well done. Tell her well done. I am very impressed. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to ask our director that before we go to break, if we could at least get some more of it in case someone has just come in and heard the conversation and not knowing what we're talking about. This is the anthem performed by the Marlon Legall Voice Project, commissioned by Ambassador Comissiong, and the history behind it, of course, the anthem for the UNIA.
Ethiopia, the land of our fathers, the land where the gods love to be. As storm cloud at night suddenly gathers, our armies come rushing to thee.
We must in the fight be victorious, when swords are thrust outward to gleam. For us will the victory be glorious, when led by the red, black, and green. Advance, advance to victory, let Africa be free.
Advance,
Advance to meet the foe.
advance,
Advance to meet the foe.
with the might of the red, the black, and the green. With the might of the red.